Howdy Shop Warrior. Here I am on my 2005 Chevy Suburban. I'm looking for a place to mount this guy. If you've ever seen these for your iPhone or Android phone to connect to, these are fantastic. So it's just a magnetic here. And I got those neodymium magnets inside, and then you put a thin metal plate inside of your case, and it just magnetically attaches. They're awesome. So I'm looking for a place to put this. I have one of these kind here that connect to the air vents, but I'm just really not happy with it, the way it moves around. So I'm looking for a place to mount this guy. So I'm just going to walk through how to mount it into your dash, make it a little more solid and stable. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so what I tried at first was just mounting this, into the air vent. Problem is this air vent swivels a lot, and so my phone ends up kind of going sideways, and it's just unstable moving around, so I don't like that. So I'm looking at mounting this thing. So a couple of options I was looking at. You can see I've already pulled the dash out, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I have a blank spot here and here, and so this is a really nice surface that I could put a couple screws in and mount it right there, which I like. And I may end up doing two different locations, but I think the first one I'm going to do is actually over here in this slot. Thinking I can mount it with some screws, and then rotate that around. Kind of rotate that around like that, and mount it up there. I am going to have to trim down the sides, probably with a Dremel, to get it to fit nice and secure up at the top, and then that gives it a nice stable spot to sit right there. So step number one is pulling this dash out, and it's extremely easy. If you just pull on it, the whole thing just pops right out. See, you can see there's these points. Ooh, there we go. There's points like this. Maybe you can see it better from inside here. The little blue there, where the tabs go in. And then you'll see one over here. Where are we? Right there. So these little connectors there just snap into it. So you just give it a good tug and it pops right off. I'm trying to remove this thing. Let me show you how to do that. Oh, sorry, it's out of focus. So if you look, once you pop this off, let's get this back in there to show you. So you'll have this piece sitting in there, and the only thing you need to do to remove this is to push down with a screwdriver into this area, and there'll be a little tab that will release it, and you can pull it out. Get out and I'll show you the tab. Hopefully this makes sense. All right, so where was the top? Here we go. So this is the top. So all I needed to do was push down on this and pull it, and that's what released it. These just set into the holes to kind of keep it in place, but all I really needed to push on was this, push it and pull out, and it released it. So now what I'm going to do is get my phone mount here. I'm going to Dremel down the edges so that it fits up flush in there, because right now this is a little too wide, and then I'll put a screw through it to hold it in place, and then we'll put this back in. Looking at this, I've decided I'm going to change a little bit how I'm going to mount this. At first I thought I could just mount this flush. As you can see, the problem is if I mounted it flush, it would be like that. And I really need this to be, the phone to be parallel to that, sitting here like this. So if it's like this, that's too far down, that doesn't work, because this really needs to be longer. So to counteract that, instead of mounting it flush like that, I'm going to Dremel a small ridge right there that this front lip can go into, and then I'm going to rotate it back so this will go into a little ridge up in here, and then I'm going to rotate it back as far as possible. I'm going to use a small bolt. Small bolt, drill a hole through the top, drill a hole through here, and I'll have a bolt that I can tighten. So I'll stick it in there, and then I'll just tighten this until it's good and snug, and that way it'll be nice, and this can be flush with this and the phone as well. Hopefully you can see the ridge here that I've dremeled through. The whole idea is for this front part to kind of just stay in there. Kind of put it, just the end of it to get stuck into that part. And now, with it stuck in there, I'll just swivel it back and tighten this bolt. Here we go, got it fully assembled. So I actually ended up using a Wingnut on the other side of this, and I found that to be easy because it would be hard to get something in there to tighten a little nut, so using my finger on the Wingnut worked great. The key is putting this piece on there so it creates a tension between this, and then the front lip of it is in that slit we drilled. Now one tip is if you're going to Dremel it from the top. So that way any time you go over or hit the edge, it's going to be out here where you're not going to see it. I did it from the inside, and there's a couple of scrapes in there where I went off. So fortunately you can't see it when this is there, but if I took this off you could see some tiny little scrapes inside. So to avoid that, smarter thing to do would be to Dremel it from the top. So a little Dremel there, screw hole, drill it a little bit of angle, tighten your Wingnut on, and this is nice and stable, nice and sturdy. Hopefully this won't interfere with the plastic that goes around it. I don't think so. I think the plastic is out here, so I don't think this will be too wide, but we'll go put it on and see. And let's get this guy back in here. Just going to fish it down in. Hopefully I can get this one handed. Maybe not. There we go, almost. I don't have this dash pulled fully off. It'd definitely be easier if you pulled it all the way off. Alright, there we go. Got it into position. Yes! This is too big! So what I'm going to have to do is undo this nut, pull it out, put it back in, and then tighten it. Hopefully I can do that once it's in there. Alright, let's try this. The best way to do this is going to be just detach this part. Leave everything else in there. Leave the Wingnut on. Because if I take the Wingnut off, you know, when I push on this screw, it may pop off the top. So you want to leave that Wingnut on. Right, we have the piece fully back in here, the dash pushed back in. And now I'm just going to pop that on and tighten things, which I can't do with one hand. So essentially we're just going to do that, pop it on, and then tighten it. Alright, so I just popped it on, then I tightened up the black plastic ring around the back of this to tighten it up, and then I tightened up the Wingnut a little bit. And now that it's sitting in there, it's really solid. I really like it. Putting the phone on there works nice. It doesn't, you know, this doesn't move around at all, unlike when it's on the vent. So I'll be sure and put a description of this down in the, or a link to this in the description, into the Dremel tool as well. If you've never used one of those things are great for little projects like this. The only downside to this is that the phone, when this is snug up against this, the phone sits slightly kind of angled towards you, as opposed to flat or kind of like that. So, but I think it'll be fine. I like being able to see the navigation. I think glancing here is faster and safer than glancing way over here. So that's one reason why I wanted to hear, was when I'm using it for navigation, it's a little bit faster for my eyes to get there. So I think it'll still be very readable. Steering wheels barely covers a little bit of the lower part of the screen, but for the most part I think I'm going to like it over here, especially when navigating. Another thing I may do to enhance this is run power into this and run audio over to here and just come in through the back. So I've run, I've tapped into this, and inside the console I've got a USB port, and I've got a video for that if you want to see that. And then I've got a video for how to put this auxiliary, it's a stereo jack, in here. And this runs over there, and then behind there is the XM module. So you can tap into the XM module and run some audio. So I've got a separate video on that. But I like having my power and my audio here, which is nice if you want to have the phone here or for a passenger. But I think for having the phone mounted over here, I'm going to run some power off of this guy, and I'm going to run, I've actually made it over here, the audio part, to where I can tap into it and have a separate cable run back behind the dash and come out here. So I have just, a couple of small cables I could plug into the back and have my power and audio right there. All right, thanks y'all.